I welcome all of you to this great unit in education, the components of a scheme of work. Proudly sponsored by East African Institute of Learning, located at Chitende along Entebbe Road. I'm Walusimbi Jonah, your seasoned trainer. Components of a scheme of work. In this unit, we are going to look at the following. We'll have an in-depth understanding of what is a scheme of work. That is one. Then we'll also see the importance why teachers need to prepare a scheme of work. We'll come to appreciate why a teacher should not teach without a scheme of work. Now, we'll also create a link between the scheme of work and the curriculum. Not forgetting the main components that should be part and parcel of a scheme of work. Let's start with what is a scheme of work. In its broadest sense, we can say a scheme of work is a long-term plan to show how teaching should be organized. In this particular perspective, a scheme of work can stretch for a year, but within the Ugandan context, we usually prepare schemes of work for a period of a term that's about 12 weeks, clearly outlining how the teaching in that particular subject will progress. As a teacher, decisions need to be made about what will be taught and in which order they are to be sequenced. Now, usually, within the Ugandan context, National Curriculum Development Center has prepared the syllabus. Now, some schools, based on the teacher's experience, have decided to resequence, to change the flow. There is no problem with that, based on your observation. But now that will be put into consideration as you're carrying on the scheme of work design. Now, the scheme of work should help the teacher to regularly check on progress through the course, because you have already designed the material, the content for the term. So regular checking through the scheme of work will assist the teacher to determine the progression, and to also, in the course of the term, to check that the resources that are needed are available when they are available. Now, while preparing the scheme of work, please remember to identify the students' needs. First ask yourself, who are they? Is it an S1 class? Is it a P2 class? Is it a middle class? What do they need to learn? Move into the syllabus, determine what they need to learn in that term. When do they need to learn it? Is it going to be in the first week? Is it going to be in the third week or the fifth week? Where do they need to learn it? Is it going to be a field trip, out of class, within class? Why do they need to learn it? What are the objectives of teaching that particular unit? And then how will you teach them the needs? Which teaching methods are you going to use? Those are very key salient issues to look at when you are embarking on the journey of preparation of the scheme of work. Now, planning and preparing a scheme of work. Ask yourself these questions. Who do I need to plan and prepare for? What do I need to plan and prepare? When do I need to plan and prepare? Where do I need to plan and prepare? Why do I need to plan and prepare? And how will I plan and prepare? Now, how to prepare a scheme of work? Begin by breaking down the year into chunks. So you pick the syllabus from National Curriculum Development Center, break down the year into chunks. Within the Ugandan context, we say into terms. Then determine how many topics, how many themes do you need to teach in that particular term. Usually, in some syllabuses, the NCDC officials have already demarcated that this is for first term, second term, and third term. If not, sit as a team, sit as a department, and split out the content into first, second, and third term. Now, I would recommend that you allow yourself a couple of weeks at the end of the revision and assessment sessions. In other words, it would be nice that as you're preparing the scheme of work, you put into consideration the activities of the term. This term, we shall have mid-term exams. We shall have end-of-term exams. We shall have games in this week. Why this is important? Because if you don't put that into consideration, you'll over-scheme, and in the end, you will not be able to finish all the material that you have schemed for that term. Again, within the Ugandan context, and majorly in third term, schools insist that the students should have paid full fees at the beginning before joining third term. Therefore, it would not make great sense to right away start on new content in the first week of the term. As you're embarking on this journey of preparation of schemes of work, decide how long you'll need for each chunk, how long you'll need for each topic, for each theme. Could it be 2 to 3 weeks? That will be dependent on the magnitude of the content under that theme, topic, or the like. As you go through that, please think about what resources you will need for each of the area you are undertaking. Will you need textbooks? Will you need computers? Will you need live specimens? Things like that. Now, these ones, as we shall see, you write them in the resources column. Now, here is a sample of a scheme of work. You notice there is a first section where you indicate the week. Is it the first week? The second week? When you indicate the day or the date, where you indicate the time. You will also indicate the class you're teaching, the theme or topic, the language skills that you are going to emphasize, the syllabus specifications, that now you are in the nitty-gritties, the content, and then you have remarks. The remarks you fill in that column having taught, and then you provide remarks how you have progressed in that particular aspect. Now, I'm going to give you a sample scheme for a competence-based curriculum. You know, right now in lower secondary, it's competence-based. Now, 2026, upper secondary A-level is also progressing into that new line of competence-based curriculum. Now, what are the basics that you need to have within a standard scheme of work? One, the name of the school should be indicated on top. The name of the teacher. Now, of course, I could be teaching P4A, and another teacher is teaching P4B. Put the name there. The class I'm teaching. Is it P5? Is it S2? The subject I'm teaching, and which term am I focusing on? Now, if you can zoom in here, you have the week. As I did mention, you have the week. You indicate the period when your subject is taking place in that week. The theme you are teaching, topic for that matter. The competence, what you expect the learners to be competent in. The learning outcomes at the end of the lesson. This is the expertise the little ones will manifest. In other words, if anybody is to determine to measure your success, these outcomes should be obvious. Then go ahead to indicate the technical or learning resources that you're going to need. Am I going to need bottle tops? Am I going to need a laptop? Go ahead and mention the methodology that you're going to use. Later on, please make sure you watch my videos on the teaching methods. Usually when I conduct trainings, I usually conduct what I call the 101 teaching methods. There are so many. And don't forget, there is a column for resources, and finally, remarks. Again, here is another sample of a scheme of work that can be employed in nursery section or the nursery school. You have the week, you have the period, you have the learning area, then you have the learning outcomes, and then the competence under each of that learning outcome that you're going to emphasize. And then you have the learners' activities that they are going to engage in, the learning aids, the references, and a section for comment or remarks. Again, another sample of a scheme of work for a primary 5 class. You notice you state the name of the school, your name as we said, the class you're teaching in this particular regard, P5 by P5 what stream, if it is there. And go ahead to indicate the week, the period, the topic, the subtopic, the subject competence, what are the details of the content related to that subject, then what are the language competences that you're going to develop within this subject, what is going to be the content of this particular lesson, then suggested activities that you are going to engage the learners in, the teaching learning resources that you're going to use, and the references that you are going to use during the lesson preparation. And don't forget the remarks corner. Now, having seen the overview of the scheme of work, how you can design it, I would like to focus on important considerations to be borne in mind when preparing a scheme of work. Number one, it is important for a teacher to have a good understanding of the syllabus. The teacher within the Ugandan context may not have been involved in the initial stages of curriculum development. However, that does not exempt you of your poor delivery. You need to understand this curriculum in the Ugandan context that was designed by National Curriculum Development Center, internalize it very well, and then you can correctively implement it. Therefore, this calls for a thorough understanding of the syllabus and the content in order to achieve the stated objectives within that NCD syllabus. Number two, you need now to proceed and succeed in syllabus content delivery. The topics of the syllabus may not be arranged in the order in which you as a school or you as an individual have decided to teach them. Some topics may require that there is knowledge of the previous ones, previous topics on which you are building on to the new ones, while other topics may be quite independent. So please focus and say, it would be nice for this topic to follow this topic for proper understanding of the learners. The teacher should identify the essential learning content and also arrange the content in a logical manner, putting into consideration the preceding and the succeeding syllabus content. Now, I would advise teachers that when you design a scheme of work, keep it well, for it can be reused next year or the subsequent years or by the teachers that follow. Now, I know in many Ugandan schools, the schools provide you a black book, and every year you have to rewrite. I urge my friends, the heads of departments, heads of sections, I think we need to get out of the box. This is an era of utilizing time very well, and therefore develop soft copies of these schemes of work. Save time. In the subsequent year, the teacher can simply revise the existing scheme of work to suit it to his current students, bring it up to date, refine it. Now, regarding reference materials, the teacher should be familiar with reference materials. Do a lot of research. The reference materials can be the website, quote the website. It can be the textbooks that you're making use of. Please record those references. It's unfortunate to note that it is very disturbing to find out that a topic that was already covered, more enjoyable in the past, is now not well understood. Why? Because of no reference materials this time. So therefore, please ensure you plan for that. Now, examination. The type of examination the students are being prepared for should be kept in mind so that the right content is delivered, is planned for. Time. Now, we do agree that there are about 40 weeks in a year, but usually we do not make use of all the 40 weeks in a year. Therefore, it is important to identify those weeks that we are going to effectively utilize in each term. Remember, you'll have to knock off exam time, you'll have to knock off sports days and things like that. So, the number of teaching periods vary according to both predictable and unpredictable interruptions. Effective teaching time must therefore be estimated before the topics are selected, so that we really scheme for what we shall cover. So keep in mind, you're going to have public holidays, you're going to have exams, you're going to have schemes, open days, sports days, and midterm breaks for some schools. Now, general components of a scheme. Remember, a scheme, there's a session, there's a section of the aims. There is a topic or title session. The objectives or learning outcomes that need to be included. There is subject content. There are teaching methods, students' activities, and then assessment methods you're going to use. Don't forget, the scheme of work can also incorporate the evaluation, the resource requirements that you're going to need, the materials you're going to need, and the learning support requirements, so that you integrate what we call diverse learning needs of the students. You remember, we said at the top of a scheme of work, you indicate the name of the school. You indicate the class. In this particular bit, we've called it a student's level. Class S2 South. You indicate the subject you are teaching, the date of the preparation of the scheme. In this particular regard, the time the scheme of work was completed. Then the syllabus topics that you are going to focus on. The weeks column should be taken care of so that you progressively track the whole learning phase. Don't forget to indicate the number of periods. Is it 1, 2, or 3 periods in a week? So that should help you to determine which content or how many periods. Now, the lesson titles, this is important. This should be clear and definite. The teacher should single out all the lesson titles in a particular syllabus topic. Objectives. Remember, each lesson should have objectives. What you are to pinpoint in that particular lesson that will influence the behavior of the learners. The objectives must be stated in a manner that is measurable, so that at the end of the lesson, you can determine that, yes, I managed to attain my objective. Learners color a cat. Color green. It should be measurable. It should be measurable. Regarding methods, what do we mean in this particular case? The approach, the strategies the teacher is going to use in delivery of the content. That's very, very important to think about. Now, most teachers tend to forget that teaching aids matter a lot. So please do not forget teaching aids. Do not forget remarks. Indicate the date you taught the content. Was the content overplanned? Was there failure? And then what reasons would account for the failure? Probably sports day, an event came up. So that was a summation of all that you need to know in this whole journey of developing the scheme of work. I look forward